Hi! Oh gosh, I forgot something again. Are you here yet? Is anybody there yet? There. Oops. One more thing, I'm almost there. Hi, how are you? Now, I think I'm all ready. I'm Steve and welcome to my kitchen. Hi, all four of you. I want to tell you a little backstory on this. I'm going to make four different pot pies. They're not all chicken. Make 4 pot pies for you, but I want to tell you where this recipe came from. My friend Gloria's sister, Charlotte. Charlotte had made this for Gloria down in Alabama, and Gloria brought it back and she adjusted the recipe and made it hers. Now I've adjusted the recipe and made it mine. And it's more about what you can do and how you can make this your own than it is exactly how it's spiced or what you put in it. Because you can make this your own recipe as well. Okay? So, I am going to make for you the chicken pot pie, but I have 3 other pot pies in the oven already finishing up, so we'll be able to taste those. I made a taco pie. I made a pork and bean, which is a little fancier than you think of pork and bean, and chili. And I made them all using the basic same setup. I don't want to say recipe, they're different recipes, but it's the same type of setup. And once you go through this process with me, you can make this recipe yours. Okay, so starting my pan on medium hot. This cast iron pot, it was my dad's. Oh, the bag's ugly. It was my dad's, and I never gave a whole lot of thought to it. And after I started getting into cast iron, I started looking online to see what it was, and it's Wagner ware. It was made after 1960. So I kind of think after 1960, how special is that? Well, actually, this is very special. I recently found it on eBay selling for $100. So this is special. This was because my dad's, and it's also old and useful. Okay. I always put a little bit of olive oil in my pan when I'm getting going. Just a couple tablespoons to help things not to stick. Now normally, oh my dirty cutting board. Normally when I'm making a pot pie, I'll get chicken legs or thighs or breasts, you know, whatever's boneless, skinless, but not necessarily. Whatever the cheap chicken meat is, cheap. Yeah, I find that the chicken's killed on the side of the road because that's the cheapest. Whatever chicken parts you happen to have. Or we used to use chicken breasts and boil them and shred them and tear them apart. So what I've been doing is whatever chicken I got and cut that up into pieces, throw it in the pan, brown that up, and get that chicken cooked. Okay? But I'm doing something a little different today because it's always something a little different. So I'm going to put the potatoes in the pan. And I used 1 sweet potato and 1 white potato, big and chopped up. I also have carrots. And again, use whatever vegetables you've got on hand at home. Stephen went grocery shopping, he bought more celery, and look at this poor little limp celery. This is what we had in the refrigerator. How many of you throw this limp celery out when it looks like this? I put it in a cup of water for a few days, and within a few hours, this is all going to be standing up fresh. The leaves will be opened up and ready to go, so don't throw it away just because it's looking a little limp. Put it in some water, it'll revive and come back, and then you can use that first. Yes, you are. Paula, you are very useful. Okay, so I like to get the root vegetables in first. I've got all sorts of peppers, green peppers, and I've got little sweet peppers. Just whatever kind of peppers I had to start using up because they started looking like they're not going to last much longer. That's the nice thing about a pot pie, you can use anything and everything in it. and onions. And celery. Now, while that's all cooking down, I'm going to tell you my chicken story for today. Okay. Years ago, I haven't done it in a long time, but I used to get those buckets of chickens. And who used to eat the legs? Or the wing, or not the legs, but the wings. I like the extra crispy kind of bucket of chicken. So sometimes we get pieces, and sometimes they'd be in the refrigerator too long and they'd kind of start drying out a little bit, and I'd throw them in a bag and freeze them. So I ended up with this 1-gallon bag full of extra crispy chicken pieces that I didn't want to just throw away, and I thought, it's got the breading on there, so it's all flavored, it's all seasoned. Hang with me. I threw it into a pot with some chicken broth, and I cooked all the chicken down off the bones. Then I pulled all the bones out. And then I added a bunch of vegetables to it. One of the best chicken soups I've ever had. Gloria can tell you all about it. It was delicious. So, what I did is, 2 weeks ago I took a friend some fried chicken that I'd used in one of my big pots. And after making the chicken, we still had a few pieces left over. We threw them in the freezer. So last night, when I'm getting ready and thinking through the show and whatnot, I pulled those frozen. It was 2 legs and a thigh. I pulled them out, and this morning I put them in a crock pot so that they would just all melt. So I know it sounds kind of odd, but again, the breading is just more seasoning for your pie. The flour in the breading, it acts as a thickener to thicken up all the juices. So it's really not all that bizarre. So I threw them in a little crock pot this morning so the meat was falling off the bones and everything, and pulled all the bones out. And that's the chicken I'm going to use today once I get my vegetables all cooking. A little bit of chicken broth. Again, normally I would start out with my raw chicken if I was doing it, but since my chicken's already cooked, I'm getting all the vegetables in first. And this turns out to be a very quick recipe that way. The thing that's common about all these pot pies is a topping that I'm going to put on it before it goes in the oven. Like I said, in a few minutes I'll pull the 3 that I have in there out, and I'll put this other one in. You don't want to cook the vegetables until they're all soft and soggy, because it's going to go into the oven for a half hour. So you just want them starting to cook a little bit. Starting to get soft. This is one of those recipes that I can get home at the end of the day, and I can usually throw together in about 45 minutes off of whatever vegetables and everything else we have around. I'm going to also add mushrooms and peas to it, but I'm going to wait a little while to throw the mushrooms and peas in, because I don't want them going to total soggy state while the harder vegetables are cooking. Also season with salt and pepper. And I like this little pepper grinder. This is actually a lemon pepper. It's really fresh when you grind up the pepper right into it. It's starting to smell really good. And a little garlic powder, a little onion powder. Like I say, most of the seasoning is going to come from that chicken that I've already cooked. But I want to make sure the vegetables are seasoned as well. I'm using powders, not salts, so I'm not sending the salt level up through the roof. And that's it. Just saute this a little bit till it gets started cooking. It smells amazing. Okay. And turn it up just a little bit higher. Most of the time I cook in cast iron on a medium low, but when I have so many cold ingredients in there, I turn it up more to a medium. And when I'm going to add a lot of liquid, or I'll add like my chicken, I'm going to turn it up to a medium high to get everything hot and really cooked through. I am watching questions today. They're not on Sideways. I want to come be a live audience so I can taste. You're welcome to. I don't know what I'm cooking. I need suggestions for next week. I don't have an idea of what to really cook for next week, so I need suggestions. What would you like to see cooked in cast iron? Okay? Okay, so the broth is boiling in there, that little bit that I put in. Vegetables are starting. Oh, I can smell the celery that I put in there. Trust me on the chicken, folks. It looks a little odd, but trust me on the chicken. Okay, this is the chicken, and some of the lumpies, it's not very vegetarian. Sorry, Emily. But you've also got all the crunchies from the chicken have cooked down, and it's kind of thick, but it's all chicken deliciousness. Trust me on this, it's really good. So I'm going to pour this in here. And like I say, this is going to really thicken up that broth. Now, I've made this last week for somebody, and actually I had a butternut squash that I had gotten at the farmer's market. So instead of using potatoes, I used the butternut squash. I also used some Chinese, Japanese eggplant, one or the others, and zucchini and whatnot. Stay away from them. Don't put eggplant or zucchini or anything else in there. It's too wet, and it really waters down your whole chicken. So you want to use, one time I made it and I used all root vegetables. I used turnips and potatoes, different kinds of potatoes, and onions and celery, of course. But I also found, can't think right now, just whatever the vegetables are that you may not normally taste and may not normally eat. Just get one of each of them, one of a variety of vegetables. I've also, oh, sorry, Emily. So some of the recipes, like I say, I use whatever vegetables come around. If I'm using a lot of those hard root vegetables and I don't have a lot of time to cook, I'll throw them in the crock pot during the day with some chicken broth on low. So when I get home, the vegetables are mostly cooked. So I can throw it in the pot with the meat, stir it all up, put the topping on it, throw it in the oven, and it's done a whole lot faster. So, stir all this up. This is getting hot really good. Steven's in the other room, but he refuses to be on camera. It's not his thing, and I respect that. So, this is thickening up real nice. Now, with pot pie in the cast iron, I'm not, we don't have a bottom crust on it and side crusts on it. We just have the top crust on it, which I think is absolutely wonderful. And that's why I call these pot pies, because I've made whatever the dish is underneath, and then I put this crust over it. And you can somewhat appreciate the goodness when I pull it out of the oven and look at this crust, but you gotta taste it. It's an incredibly wonderful crust. I'm gonna throw peas in, because I have peas. Not all these mushrooms, that'll be a little much. I'm throwing some of the mushrooms in. And that's all I can fill my pan with without making a mess. So I'm going to give this a stir. Oh, yeah. Oh, you guys, it's so good. Oh, and just the right amount of sauce in there with a little bit, and everything's thickening up in here real good. with just that little bit of chicken stock I used, and then my cooked down chicken with the stock in that as well. So I'm going to kind of mush this down flat a little bit. Nobody saw that carrot flip out, so I can put it back in. Ah. It's good, people. All the seasoning of that chicken in that crust has now seasoned the entire pot pie. So good. Now, this is the topping that makes this my favorite pot pie. It's really good. So, I'm going to take a cup of flour after I throw my measuring spoon into the sink. My little half cup measure. So I'll do 2 of them. This does not have to be exact and precise, but pretty close. I always keep flour in a mason jar next to the stove, so if I need just a little bit of flour, if I'm making bread, doing a dough, I can do that all up. That's what I should do with some of the bread doughs that I've done. Cooked in cast iron. Okay. So you got a cup of flour, a cup of milk. Here's the little demon in the whole thing. A cup of real mayonnaise. Do not use fake light mayonnaises in this. You'll hate it. The crust turns into cardboard. You need the fattiness from the mayonnaise. And it gives the crust a nice little tartness. Okay. This mixes together. And it's fairly thin, but that makes it so pourable over the whole restaurant. The recipe. It'll pour over nicely over the whole recipe. So I'm just going to stir this up. What I've done in the past too, which some of you might go ick, but when I get to this stage of the pot pie where everything's all mixed up and ready to go, throw some sliced hard-boiled eggs over it. I'm telling you, it's delicious. Sliced hard-boiled eggs layer, and then put your topping over it. They are delicious in there. I know people that have been really thrown off by that and how good it actually is. Okay. One last stir. Yes. I'm telling you. The smell is delicious. The texture with all the vegetables in it is wonderful. So now here's that crust. It looks almost like a pancake batter. Can you see? It's almost like a pancake batter. It's fairly loose. So I'm just going to pour this. Crash. Just pour it all over the top. And it'll work its way to the sides and whatnot. You don't have to worry about it too much. Just try to even it out as much as you can. Now, one more thing about the crust. Again, don't use any kind of low-fat mayonnaise in it or anything, because it's like, turns into a flat cardboard crust like you cut the bottom off of a pizza and put it on there. You want to make sure you use whole, real mayonnaise. If you want to get all Julia Child, go ahead and make your own mayonnaise to whip it up and put it over the top. Ketchup with God. It is tasty. Your grandma used to put... See? Mac and cheese for next week? It's flour, mayonnaise, and milk. A cup of each. Okay? Now, I'm going to put this one in the oven and see how close the other ones are to being ready. So close, but not quite. pardon my, yeah, you know. I'm going to put that up just a little bit. You want to bake it in the oven at 425 for roughly 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much stuff you have in the oven. Now, a while ago when I was making homemade pizzas, Stephen said, oh, let's put some cornmeal on the bottom, you know, to give it that nice crusty texture on it. And he brought home some cornmeal, but it was more like a cornmeal flour. It wasn't like just round cornmeal with texture. It was just, I was like, what am I going to do with this cornmeal flour now? So what I did is I've made it a few times where I've substituted, instead of using the white flour in the crust, I've used the cornmeal. It is like having cornbread on top of anything that you're cooking. It makes this light, puffy layer. The other 3 pot pies in the oven have the cornmeal crust on them. Any cast iron is good for frying bacon. I've had luck with all of it. A lot of times, what a lot of folks will recommend is after you've seasoned your cast iron for the first time, that bacon is one of the first things that you should cook in it to help all that bacon fat season the pan even farther. And I will tell you, the best way I've found to cook bacon in the pan, warm the pan up to about medium high, and sounds weird, like a tablespoon of olive oil just to coat the bottom, okay? If you've got that bare metal all hot and you place a cold food on it, it will stick. But if you have just the thinnest coat of oil on there that is hot, when the cold food hits it, it'll still slip around. It won't stick because you've got that fresh oil in there. So even something fatty that I'm going to cook, I'll use just a tablespoon of olive oil on it to keep it from coming. Hi, Diane. Cornmeal crust is the same amounts. 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of the cornmeal, 1 cup of milk, and 1 cup of mayonnaise. I have 3 pots that I want to show you real quick while this is finishing up. This is my pot that I use to fry chicken in. About halfway up or so with oil. This really maintains the heat. This is not particularly old. It's Wagner. It says 1891, but that was their celebration that they did. But it has the seasoning directions on it. I don't know if Wagner's original is still around or not. The Wagner Ware is the old frying pan that I've used. This one is a cute little Wagner Ware bean pot. So I've used this many times with pork and beans or whatever thrown in there, and thrown in there, and it comes, you know, the beans just cook real slow for a long time. This one I've also cooked bread in. And when I've cooked a loaf of bread in this in the oven, just turn it over, the bread comes right out. My favorite pot, and I'm waiting for the occasion to cook a chicken pot pie in this one. This was my dad's. Huge. One year I actually took, I put the dressing in there, and I put Cornish hens and sides and whatnot and potatoes. I put it all in there, covered it up with its lid, and just let it cook, you know, for hours, and everything got cooked about the same time. It's time to check on our pot pies again. Okay. Let's see how well these are doing. Yay! This one oozed over a little bit more across the top. Steven! There you go. That's 2 weeks in a row where I've set off the fire alarm. Sorry, Lisa. I hope the dogs are okay. This one, I will show you. See the yellow in the crust? That's because I used the cornmeal in it. And the little dribblings over the top. Let's see. This is actually a chili. I made a chili recipe. I made my chili right in the pan, the recipe with the beans, and I use a mixture of beef and turkey. We usually never cook with just beef. We lighten it up with a little turkey, which lets me get away with the mayonnaise. So my pot pies have overflowed a little bit and hit the bottom of the oven. This one, don't laugh at me. That one's pork and beans. But not just, I didn't just throw a can of pork and beans in there. I made my recipe that I really like for baked beans. And I took a couple pork ribs and I sliced all the meat off of those. So I sauteed that pork meat with onions and green peppers and seasoned that. Then I added beans and barbecue sauce and a little mustard, a little bit of honey to it to make my baked beans the way I like. So that's pork and beans with a crust over it. I'm telling you, you can make anything you want out of these. I'm sorry. I'll take the smoke. My friend Lisa has a dog who hates smoke alarms and goes into fits and whatnot. I'm sorry, Lisa. So now that one's just really going. Don't fear, just on Emily's phone just wanted to... Ha! Thank you, Amanda. The third one I'm going to take out. Wow. This is the one we're having for lunch today. I had to put my chicken in the middle. I made a taco pot pie. I used taco seasonings with the beef and the turkey, and then I added onions to it and sauteed all that up. And what else did I put in the taco one? Oh yeah, after I put the beef and the tomatoes and onions and everything, I simmered all the stuff you would normally put on tacos, except the lettuce. Lettuce doesn't bake well. Put all that in there. I put a layer of refried beans over the top of it, sprinkled some tomato on that, and then put the crust. So you've got the corn of the crust is like your corn tortilla, and then all the taco stuff in between. So I'm going to take a bite of each of these in just a moment. I want to show you the taco one. It was really, really hot. This is a little wetter, I think, because of the tomatoes in it. But you can actually see the tomatoes came through the crust. Usually you want to let these sit for about 5 minutes after you pulled them out of the oven because they're going to be hot and they're going to be fairly juicy. Let them rest for about 5 minutes, and that helps the moisture to kind of go back into it. I have to go on the crust a little bit. It's just, oh, it's wonderful. They are good, Julie. You got to have some. So, let me get my sour cream, because chili's got to have sour cream on it, and the taco one has to have some sour cream. For some reason, I wasn't wanting sour cream to sit on the counter for a half hour. Okay. The baked bean one smells. I bend over here. The baked bean one smells. It's smoky and it's sweet at the same time, and I can get the onion and the green pepper off of that. Oof. I have to try all three now. Stephen and I have already decided the taco one is lunch. There's no way around that. So I'm going to take just a little dollop and put there, and that's where I'm going to spoon that out. You could top the chili one or the taco one. You could shred up some, or slice up thin some scallions You could put lettuce on the taco one at this point, and whatever, however you like your tacos. Put it on the inside. Put the stuff on the outside. I didn't want to put a dirty spoon in the sink. Come on, confess. How many of you lick the spoon of the sour cream or a lot of the other things when you're cooking? Oh, and I almost forgot. On the taco one, out of the oven, while it's still warm, I'm putting some more cheese. There. I would put more, but you might think things up. Okay. We're going to try the bean one first. Like I say, because the bean one had more moisture to it, some of the bean stuff kind of cooked over the top. I need a bigger spoon for this to show you. Oh, beautiful. So I don't know how well you can see in there. So this, see how fluffy? Do you see that crust on the top? How fluffy that is? I'm going to burn the heck out of my mouth, aren't I? But you can see the beans. I use a couple different kinds of beans when I make pork and beans. The corn and the beans is so good. So good. I have not gotten any of the pork yet. Oh, we got more noise. My pans are really filled up to the top, and they're overflowing a bit in there. Little piece of celery. So good. Okay. Are you going to laugh at me now if I tell you that one was the chili? It was really good chili. That's why I wasn't finding pork and I was seeing hamburger in it. So, perfect. I had sour cream with my chili. This is the pork and bean one. Come on, it's not like I could put a label maker on it. Oh, yeah. Go in there. Yes, this is definitely... Oh, there's a little pork. No, it's not. Where's my pork? Okay. I'm not going to go digging around for the pork right now. Definitely the bean one. Baked bean one. And again, you got that little bit. How often do you make cornbread with your food anyway? Put the cornbread on top. And I have these little sweet peppers. So good. Bacon would be good in this. You can do these without meat. You could do them vegetarian style, or you could do them with bacon. If your man eats no meat. He wouldn't make it far in Big Fat Greek Wedding movie, would he? Make him lamb. He eats no meat, make him lamb. So that's the baked bean one. This is the taco one. Oh my gosh. My mom used to make a tamale pie when we were growing up. No, we're not Hispanic. She may have found the recipe on Good Housekeeping or something. This has just got all kinds of goodness in it. And like I say, I cooked up the taco seasoning with the meat and onions and whatnot on the bottom. Then I put a layer of refried beans over that. Then I put a layer of cheese, and then I put the crust over that. So you had the crust is with the cheese and the tomatoes and everything. You knew what, Stephanie? A seafood pot pie would be intriguing. Stephanie, you tell me what you want to eat when you come here. I will cook you anything you want to, baby. I also added some corn to it. So it's a very corn, with the corn and the tacos, almost like taco salad meets pot pie. So good. But I'm telling you, it's just a technique of making food that you love and throwing it in your cast iron, covering it with cheese and the sauce, whatever. It's not, oh, black olives. I put black olives too in the taco one. I'm getting the taco spice now too. Okay. I don't want waste. Make it yours. Make the recipe yours, whatever works for you and your family. Like I say, 9 times out of 10, this isn't something that I plan ahead. I come home, look what's in the refrigerator, throw it all in the pot, put a crust on it, throw it in the oven, and we're all good. I thank you all for joining me. This is Stephen in my kitchen, where I cook for my family. Go home and cook for your family, please. And make this recipe and any of the other recipes yours. Have a good day. There it is. Quiche episode would be good. I'll think about quiche for next week. Hugs.